Tell me if this sounds familiar. You start out your day full of energy and you go into the office and you're doing all sorts of things. And then 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon comes and you start to crash. You start to doze, you start to feel sleepy. And it doesn't even matter if you slept well the night before or not. Your body just starts crashing and you're not even sure that you can finish out your day strong the way that you want to. And all you really want to do is move to Spain, where naps in the afternoon are completely acceptable. I've done lots of research on this topic, and I'm going to share with you all of that inside of this video here, and the things that I've implemented in my own life that have helped me push through that afternoon crash, but more importantly than that, actually helped me go home earlier. I find myself going home around 4 o'clock in the afternoon because of all the things that I put in place to get through that crash. It's a way to increase your productivity, and I've measured this. It's up by over 300%, specifically in the afternoon, based on the things that I'm going to share with you in this video. Before we even get to that, you might be wondering if it's normal to feel sleepy at 1, 2, maybe even 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know for me, for the longest time, I kept thinking that I wasn't sleeping well at night, and that's why I was experiencing these afternoon crashes. But all the research I've done has pointed to the fact that, yeah, it's totally normal. So if you feel sleepy sometime between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, it's not necessarily that you're not sleeping well at night. It could just be this natural cycle. Now, there's a couple schools of thought on this, and one of them that seems to be the most prominent has to do with what's called our circadian rhythm. It's the cycle of our body going from different states of awake and asleep. And in these cycles, well, our brain produces different hormones. And in this case, melatonin is typically what gets produced when it's time to fall asleep. What was interesting when I was doing research about this is that right before we typically go to sleep, where if you go to sleep sometime 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, your body temperature actually dips a couple of degrees right before that, and that's the trigger for your brain to release melatonin. The crazy part is that in our natural cycles, our bodies naturally dip a couple of points sometime between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when you feel tired in the afternoon, that's exactly why it happens. Now, when you start to feel this crash, one of your first instincts is probably to go grab a cup of coffee. But even if you get a cup, it's best not to drink it, maybe even pour it out altogether, because what it's doing is it's actually causing a lot of problems for you to go to sleep at night. I've done a lot of research on this, and one of the things that astonished me the most was that the caffeine from a cup of coffee stays in your system for up to 10 hours. So if you're having a cup of coffee at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe even 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you might recognize why you have trouble falling asleep at night. All right, so the coffee has got to be out. It messes with our sleep later at night, and we simply don't want that. But we've got to figure out how to power through that crash in the afternoon. Well, what I'm going to share with you now is the 3 biggest things from all the research that I've done that help me get through my afternoons and be more productive and actually leave the office earlier at 4 because I was so productive. And the first one actually happens before the crash even starts. Come on, I'll show you. Before the afternoon crash is even a blip on the radar, you got a choice to make. It's what you're going to have for lunch. So many people wind up choosing things like fast food and quick service restaurants without really recognizing what the high saturated fat content is going to do to their stomach in just a few hours. Like, forget about what it's going to do in the next 6 months or a year or 2 years if you wind up still doing it. I'm talking about just the next couple hours. All the research that I've done talks about how saturated fat is really difficult for our bodies to digest, and what this does is sends a lot of blood to your stomach trying to digest that versus being everywhere else in your body that you need to be more attentive. So what you have for lunch really does have a play in what's going to happen for you the rest of the afternoon. Sorry, McDonald's, I do love your fries, just not for lunch. So I'm sure this doesn't come as a shock to you, but you've got to make a better choice in terms of what you're having for lunch in order to avoid the crash of the afternoon. Saturated fat at the fast food restaurants and quick service restaurants that so many people go to, that's part of the equation, but it's what choice you make instead that ultimately counts in this situation. I know for me, what ends up working is I'll have a grain and then like a lean protein, like some grilled chicken, and then some vegetables in that, and I'll add some other healthy fats to it, either avocado or avocado oil, because those things are going to power me through the afternoon. One of the things that I didn't know about before I started researching all of this was that when you've got too high a carbs and too high a saturated fats, essentially what happens is this insulin spike from all the carbs act like you had just eaten a bunch of sugar. So you get the sugar high, but then if you've ever eaten a lot of sugar, you know what happens is this crash. Turns out that high fat, high carb meals at lunch do the exact same thing inside of your body, and they have a big contributing factor into that afternoon crash that you have. So what you eat is a big portion of it, but there's another thing that you need to do about an hour and a half later that is really going to amp up your afternoon. So while what you choose to have for lunch does play a big role in you avoiding the afternoon crash, if for some reason you still start to feel the effects, like you're starting to go downhill, there's a really simple action that you can take that's going to improve your alertness really quickly, and that's direct exposure to bright white light. Now, the good news for you is that there is an abundant exposure to bright white light every single place on this planet, which is the sun. And for you science nerds out there, the sunlight is about 4,800 degrees Kelvin, and a white light inside of your house, well, it's about 5,500 degrees Kelvin. But the reality is, between the color temperatures, it doesn't matter all that much. What does matter, though, is the amount of time that you expose yourself to the bright white light. All the research and all the studies that I've seen, they zero in on about 20 minutes. So if you can find 20 minutes to simply be outside, you are going to power your way through the afternoon. And if you really want to supercharge the sunlight you're getting and all the benefits of that, all you need to do is get up and go for a walk. Now, what this does is it's a pattern interrupt. Most of our day we're spent sedentary, like your job, my job. Most jobs are ones where we wind up sitting down a lot. And what we recognize or don't recognize in that is that there's a lot of loss of blood flow that's going on that we simply don't get by having our heart work just a little bit harder and go for a walk. So this pattern interrupt actually creates the exact opposite feeling of being tired. I don't know about you, but I've never seen anybody fall asleep while they were going for a walk. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of excuses that say, I don't have the time to go out and go for a walk, even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes in the afternoon. And I get it. You think you have to go far away, but you don't. I'm just walking around my office park right now. So it's not like you need to go that far off. But if you're still one of those people that says, I just don't have the time to go do this, then you just need to ask yourself, is investing this 15 or 20 minutes of going for a walk and supercharging the sunlight actually helping you get more done for the rest of the afternoon versus just sitting there and being tired? There you have it. Those are 3 simple steps that you can implement like today. And if it's past this time today, you can implement them tomorrow. But you can do these things very easily. You can make a better choice when it comes to your lunch. Stay away from the saturated fats and go more towards lean proteins and healthy fats even. You can go outside and get some sunlight. You can go for a walk and supercharge the sunlight. But if you do all of these things, you're going to have more focus, you're going to have more discipline, and you're going to get a lot more done than you were getting when you would suffer from the crash in the afternoon. So implement these 3 things, and I promise you, you are going to have a better day tomorrow. But I tell you what, if you want to make sure that you even get a jump start on your day, check out this next video that I've got to play for you. It tells you exactly how I wake up at 4:35 a.m. every single day and don't get tired.